you. Thank you. I do want to say a couple of things though, before I talk a little bit about that. Number one, as I was listening to you ladies talk about and reading a while ago, a bit through, I thought about two things that you were talking about. One is the role of females in government and in America. I started counting, thinking, well, let me see. I've got over 100 people at the DA's office. Linda Gale is my secretary, the relative. If I were to drop dead today, right now, the district attorney would be Cynthia Killingsworth, female.
And she has spoken to her.
And she's spoken.
Has she?
Yes.
Very, very talented lady.
She's wonderful.
Yes.
Very capable prosecutor. But she would be the new district attorney of Calcasieu Parish. My investigator is Melissa Saunier. Been in law enforcement for a long time. Probably the next most important position in the DA's office is the prosecutor that specializes in severe child abuse. That is sacred to us. We zero in on that. We have a lot of people that work on it. That person is Lakeitha Holmes. Very talented lady. You've probably seen her ad on TV in the last month or so. One of the other very important divisions we have that is important not only because of the nature of it, but publicly important is domestic violence. Our domestic violence prosecutor is Hope Wyatt, now Hope Buford. So I started thinking, you know, women run the whole damn office. They let me talk from time to time, but they do the deal. So anyway, I say all of that because I do appreciate what they do, because I'm very proud of what our office has done and what it's going to do over the next 6 years. And I hope I'm going to be back here 6 years running again. The other thing I want to say is you were talking about the lady in the military, and when we was singing the Star Spangled Banner, it reminded me, I know probably most of you know this story better than I do, but I don't know if all of you are aware that Francis Scott Key was in fact a lawyer. Okay? Does anybody know that Francis Scott Key became a district attorney? That's a fact. And I want you to visualize, because this is what I think about the Constitution and how we got it. Francis Scott Key is paddling, he and a young American officer, paddling out to one of the British ships in the harbor. And they were bombarding the big fort with the American flag that's being talked about. It was late in the afternoon. He's trying to negotiate the release of American prisoners that the British had. And he's talking and he's working and has some success doing that. But they said, you've now been on our ship, you know what our plans are, and we're not going to let you go back to the bank until tomorrow morning at daylight. So the way he wrote that song, he sat there all night and watched from that ship the holes being blown through the flag and all of the explosions in that port. Was it McHenry? And he wrote, and as you think slowly through that song, I want you to visualize that guy sitting there watching all of that going on and writing what he did and how those words came about to the Star Spangled Banner. And that's exactly how it happened. He was forced to sit there and watch while they bombarded our shores. So I always get a little touchy when I think about that. So what do I think about the Constitution? It is the thread that holds all of us together. And I'm a firm believer. I'm probably a little more military than most people. By the way, I've been told recently that very few Marines ever get elected to public office. I'm not sure exactly why, but nonetheless, freedom has always and will always ride on the leading edge of a bullet. When it comes right down to it, that's what it's all about. And when you can try the rule of law all you want, but the Constitution, when you look at it and read it, basically says we have the right to bear arms, and this is why. Because when we become oppressed by something or somebody, whether it be internal or external, we have the right to revoke. That's what the Constitution says. And that's what it's all about. But at the same time, we have to look at that document that binds us all together and realize that we're all in this together. You know, we all have different views about other people, other nationalities. Some of them are warranted, some of them are not warranted. But we're all in this together, and that Constitution is what holds us all together. When I've dealt with the courts for a lot of years in civil courts, in criminal courts. I deal a lot more now in criminal courts than anything else. And I'm a firm believer, for example, that every defendant has a right to a fair trial. I would not want it any other way. We've had some issues with that you all have seen in the media over the last couple of years with, for example, the Indigent Defender Board and providing defense for indigent people. I will say again, I'm a firm believer that everybody deserves a fair trial. Everybody deserves to have legal representation. That does not, however, mean, and I've said this many times, that they're entitled to a Rolls Royce or Cadillac defense. Because a defense lawyer, given a free rein and an open treasury, can spend lots and lots and lots of money. I'm going to give you a good example, and it's how a constitutional right can get blown so far out of proportion that you begin to wonder why we do this. Some of you may have heard of the Angola Five. The Angola Five are 5 out of 6 guys, 5 survivors, 1 was killed, who tried to escape from Angola. They were all sentenced to life imprisonment, and that's why they were in Angola. This happened about 10 years ago, and it's still going on now, the legal battle. They killed the guard in the process. Didn't have to kill him, but they did. They started, the trial started probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago. The last trial may have just ended if it's over yet. One of my prosecutors that you all have seen in the paper, Hugo Holland, was one of the 2 prosecutors that prosecuted most of those Angola 5 cases. 2 of the guys have received the death penalty. 2 of the others I've gotten life imprisonment. I'm not sure if the last one's finished yet. The legal bills for that so far are close to $11 million. Now, the problem is the law says that when people who are incarcerated in the penitentiary system commit crimes, the state of Louisiana has to pay for their legal defense. One guy, and his name is Mathis, he's one of the 5. Hugo Holland and a guy from Baton Rouge prosecuted him. He never went to trial. He pled guilty before going to trial. He had lawyers appointed, some of these indigent defender lawyers. The total bill for those lawyers for one case that never went to trial was $2.7 million. Now, remember, we have a constitutional right to be represented. I've been preaching to the Indigent Defender Board, the DA's Association. Yes, that's true, and we should provide that for everybody. But it doesn't mean we can give criminal defense lawyers, for example, free keys to the Treasury, because they will spend us out of existence. Because, you know, if you want to spend $1 million to defend a lawsuit or a criminal charge, you can do it by hiring experts and everything else. And some courts let them get away with it. And that's where a lot of our money is going. That's just an example of some government programs, but that's where a lot of that criminal defense money is going. And of course, they're clamoring now. You've seen the newspapers from time to time. There's not enough money to pay lawyers. We don't have enough lawyers to go around, and we can't afford to hire experts. Well, now you know why. One case, $2.7 million, never even went to trial. Guy pled guilty. But before they did that, those court-appointed free lawyers, for him, free, spent $2.7 million of their time and expert testimony and things like that of our money. So there's an example where, yes, you have a constitutional right, and I'm all for it. Finally, about a month ago, the United States Supreme Court said, you know, everybody's entitled to a free lawyer, but not necessarily a free defense, but not necessarily a Cadillac or Rolls Royce defense. And I said, thank God, finally, the United States Supreme Court has awakened and said, you know, yes, give them a defense, but it's the same kind of defense I would get if I had to pay for it myself, not something where the treasury is open. So yes, constitutional rights are what it's all about. We have free speech. We're so fortunate. And you know, free speech is not a right given to us by politicians. It's not given to us by our representatives. It's given to us by the guys that are on that battlefield. And that's something we always have to remember. All of the rights we have are given to us by a soldier somewhere. And that's what the Constitution is all about, is that we the people have organized ourselves and said, okay, we're all going to be bound by this set of rules. Now, nobody gets out. Everybody agrees this is it. We're all in, and we're going to live by this. And we've lived by this for over 200 years now. And it's solid as a rock. Unfortunately, some of our judges try to change it from time to time. But the basic concepts are solid, and they're good, and they're there. And it's up to us to defend all of those. And I can assure you that as long as I'm the gatekeeper of the laws in this parish, that they will always be there. It's amazing, we're so fortunate to have the relationships we have now with law enforcement. I remember those of you who grew up in Lake Charles, from time to time there have been serious battles between district attorneys and sheriffs and the law enforcement agencies. You've not seen that in the last 10 years, and will not see that. Because we have formed groups where we sit down and talk about all of our problems together, and all of the problems in this parish. And what can we all do to get together to make this parish a safer place? And that's what it's all about right now, and everybody's working together for that. We know, for example, we're getting ready to have a large influx of new people coming into the parish. Many from out of state, many from outside of the country. You've already seen, maybe some of you have seen the signs that we put up about 6 months ago that say, welcome to Calcasieu Parish. If you're here to commit crimes, don't get comfortable. I put those up about 6 months ago. Well, in about 3 or 4 days, you're gonna see a new one. And it's when you come in from Texas, when you come into Sulphur from Texas, you're gonna see a sign that a very, very large billboard, the largest on I-10. Welcome to Louisiana. If you're here to commit crimes, do not take any of the next 107 exits. We want to send the message to everybody that would come into this state and this parish to commit crimes, don't even slow down. That'll probably be up in the next few days. And that is the attitude about law enforcement in Calcasieu Parish. We have the Sheriff's Department. We have 6 independent police agencies in all of our incorporated areas. We have a number of federal agencies. We have a number of state agencies. And we all meet and work together. I know from a poll that we did early this year that over 90% of the people of Calcasieu Parish feel that they live in a very safe environment. And that's a good number compared to the rest of the country. But I want that number to be a lot closer to 100. And our law enforcement agencies are working well together to make sure that happens. And that's what it's all about. Remember that Constitution. All of us getting together for the combined general welfare and good of everybody. And those are all of the things that are good about America. Those are all the things that are good about Louisiana and Calcasieu Parish. And we are determined in the law enforcement arena to improve on that and to make it better. And again, the thread that holds us all together is the Constitution. It gives us the rights that we have. We will not allow anybody to infringe on those rights. Sometimes we have elected officials in very high places that we think forget about those constitutional rights sometimes, but the pendulum always comes back to the middle when it comes to our constitutional rights. Sometimes we have people who are a little more liberal, sometimes people who are a little more conservative. But because of that solid rock foundation that we have in the Constitution, and all the people who are dedicated, all the plain, ordinary, vanilla people just like us, who are dedicated to make sure it stays that way, it's going to be that way. And you know, I don't want to say only in America, because there are other constitutional democracies, but nowhere like America. You know, the larger and the stronger we get, the stronger that notion is of constitutional government and freedom, which is what it's really all about. And we're all dedicated and willing to give our lives to make that happen and keep it happening all these years. And every day at Memorial Day and Veterans Day every year, we think about those. We're going to, I've talked to Ron Williams from the Orlick. We're going to do a Veterans Day function out at the Orlick this year. If some of you have never been to the Veterans Day program at Barb High School, it's an event you should see. It's remarkable to watch those young kids do what they do. Makes you realize that there is really somebody out there to pick up that torch for us when we pass it on. And it's really impressive to watch. But it's all because of the monolithic approach we have to America, and that the Constitution is the thing that binds us all together. And we have to all be willing to give whatever it takes to make that happen, because we all have family coming behind us. And that's what it's all about, is to take care of those people who are coming behind us. You know, my old friend John Wayne, if any of you have been up to my office, I have a life-size, really, statue, a cardboard statue of John Wayne in my office, and all kinds of John Wayne stuff, because he's kind of my hero. And nobody ever considered him particularly bright. But I want to point out something that he said one time, and that is, the most important thing in life is tomorrow. It comes to us every night at midnight, clean and fresh and pristine. It's up to us to do with it what we will. The only thing it asks of us is to remember what happened yesterday. And that's what life is all about, is learning from the things that have happened. Sometimes I wonder if our people in Washington ever heard that from John Wayne. Apparently some of them did not. But that's what really it's all about, is to learn from the mistakes we've made and from the correct decisions we've made, and move forward with those thoughts in mind. And that's so extremely important. I want you to know that I appreciate what you ladies do. And those of you who have heard me say this before, I apologize for repeating it, but this is so important to me, and I can't tell you right now who wrote it, but I know it was a lady. And I can't quote all of it, but the important part is, he has achieved success who has gained the respect of intelligent men, the love of little children, accomplished his task, and left the world a better place than he found it. You know, when you think about those words, what else is there? If we can accomplish all of that in our lifetimes, we have really made a mark and left the world a better place than we found it. And the fact that you all keep up with American history and why we are where we are and what got us to where we are, that tells me that you're going to adhere to both of those philosophies, because you're going to know where we need to go from here. So, thank you for allowing me to be here. I appreciate what you do, and again, just thank you. God bless America.
Thank you.